Hey, how's everyone doing tonight? Welcome to On the Ring Apron, a very special tribute to the Undertaker edition. I'm Steve.
I'm Kia.
And it's good that everyone's joined us this evening. We are running a little bit late, so we do apologize for those of you who have stuck around wanting to allow us to, join us for our usual Friday show. But hopefully we put on a good one. Of course, this week, a very special week, the announcement with the end of The Last Ride having its last episode this past Sunday, with The Undertaker officially calling it a career. We heard this before from other wrestlers, so you never know if you might get just one more match out of him at some point. But every indication looking like The Undertaker has officially ended his wrestling career. So they have spent the week highlighting his career with a very special, nearly hour-long tribute to him on Smackdown tonight. We've been watching The Undertaker as long as I've been watching wrestling. One of your first WrestleManias, you saw his was it not a buried alive match, but a casket match with Mark Henry at WrestleMania 22.
Yep.
And we've obviously had the joy and the honor of being able to see him live several times. Just an amazing athlete and above all else an amazing person.
I mean, he goes out there, he puts on like the greatest matches. I don't care what you say or how you feel. He goes out there and he gives it his all. This is his craft, and he's been doing it for 30 years, and he's done it to the best of his ability.
And that's the one thing, during the tributes this evening, we're going to have tons to talk about once we get through the week here towards the end of the show, because we're going to have an entire chance to talk about The Undertaker. But one thing I wanted to bring up before we got started, you talked about, his craft and everything else. The Undertaker, John Cena, when he was speaking about him tonight on the tribute, said that, the respect bar was The Undertaker.
Yeah,
that was the top level, and there was no one anywhere close.
I think when he said that, I think that's a very interesting point he brought up. When Cena first started, who was the first person that gave him his due? I think you're going to be huge in this business.
A very good respect factor after Cena's very first nights, wrestling Kurt Angle, eventually his first pay-per-view win, it was against Chris Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
And it was The Undertaker that was shaking his hand, who was the undisputed champion at the time. So, The Undertaker has, just left us just absolutely enamored with, more huge moments. Everybody talks about they want that one WrestleMania moment. The reality is he has more WrestleMania moments than can be put into an anthology on its own.
Exactly.
So, a hashtag thank you Taker, is not enough for the decades of just wonderful memories that The Undertaker has provided for us throughout the years. Of course, we wish him, well in, his retirement and everything else. There's very little doubt that, he will still make appearances here and there. But, wrestling, we sat in that arena at WrestleMania 33 when, he had just lost to Roman Reigns, and he put that jacket and that hat in the middle of the ring, and
I thought honestly that was the end.
Well,
honestly.
In a way it kind of was, but we're going to get more into that in a little bit here. So as you know, for those of us joining us for the first time on the Ring Apron, celebrating its, I believe it's 16th episode this week, so we're getting on up there.
Yep.
But we do highlight what we have seen throughout the week. We're going to begin with Monday Night Raw and what was defined as Championship Monday.
Wow.
They ended up actually putting 4 different championship matches on the card. You ended up having the first one being Asuka and Charlotte Flair for the Raw Women's Championship. Up to that point, Asuka had yet to beat Charlotte Flair in her career at any point. Granted, a earlier segment with Nia Jax causing some injury to Charlotte's arm, and her shoulder ended up being able to give Asuka a bit of an advantage. Charlotte doing what she does best, and that is, putting on just a great match against whoever is put on the other side of the ring. But ultimately, the injury from Nia Jax enough to keep the Queen down long enough. Asuka winning with a modified version of her Asuka lock and finally getting that elusive victory over Charlotte as she retains the title.
You don't understand how happy I was, because you have to remember when we went to New Orleans and when you look at Asuka, you see a champion, a purebred champion who has gone out, has done what she's supposed to, and then the fact that you have her lose to Charlotte, it's just I thought my heart was going to break again if she were to lose to Charlotte again. So, I'm just saying, the fact that she actually pulled out a win with a hurt Charlotte was just, it was great. Not for Charlotte to get herself hurt, to have herself hurt, but to have Asuka win and retain.
Right. We're getting a notification through here that we've lost sound. Is there anybody else out there who has lost sound? Let us know. We can, easily stop and, start back over if we need to. But we may have to redo the beginning segment again when we take it into, production a little bit later. But moving forward, we had Asuka getting the win. It looks like the injury to Charlotte is going to end up resulting in her needing to miss some time. Depending upon who you ask, we have some that have said that Charlotte, is only going to be out a couple of weeks. We've had some that say about 2 months. We've had some that have said she's going to be out until next year. So we really don't know who to believe in. Also, Charlotte being the workhorse she is, may very well just show up on Monday this upcoming week, and just prove all the doubters wrong and just come back even despite the fact that she's hurt.
Isn't that what queens do?
You're one, so
yeah.
You should be able to relate.
Yep.
Continuing with Championship Monday, we ended up having what was supposed to be a scheduled match between Akira Tozawa and R-Truth for the 24/7 Championship, an actual scheduled match, so the 24/7 rules being removed out. But before the match could begin, you had a very angry MVP and Bobby Lashley come out and essentially lay out the Ninja Clan of Akira Tozawa before eventually getting Bobby Lashley putting the full Nelson on R-Truth, essentially laying him out. Tozawa smart enough to hide under the ring while all this was going on, and ultimately he's able to get in the ring with the 24/7 rule not having been suspended, and he pins R-Truth to become the new champion.
I want to see how Truth is going to get this back this time. That's his baby. So I want to see what entertaining way is he going to come up with getting his baby back.
That's it. But that's what he's good at, and that's what makes the best storylines. Not necessarily him having the championship, but also having a storyline where he's got to go get it. Now, I am curious to see, can they create something to where somebody other than Truth gets involved, because the one thing that was fun about it was when you had, potentially 3 or 4 or 5 title changes over the course of an evening, and that's something that's kind of gone to the wayside. It's either it's R-Truth or it's somebody else, and then R-Truth winning it back from that person and then somebody else. And that's not to say that Truth isn't doing an amazing job. It's honestly one of the more entertaining moments on Raw each week.
My question is, does he get a lot of input? Because he seems like he's the person that would want inputs on how he's going to get his title back and what he's going to do and who does he have to talk to and what is the costume this week or what trunk is he going to hide in or what case.
That's the only thing he should have input himself into was
the
trunk. And if he got in that damn trunk,
it wouldn't have been a problem.
then he'd be fine and he'd still have his baby. Let's see. We end up having the women's tag team championship match that had been hyped up for a while. Bayley and Sasha coming back to Monday Night Raw to defend against the Iconics. Of course, the Iconics, the team that originally took the titles from Boston Hug Connection the first time around, and the Boston Hug Connection able to take advantage of a very late mistake. Sasha able to take out both people at once and secure the submission victory with the bank statement to allow them to retain the titles.
That girl is boss, I tell you. She goes out and she does her thing, and you have to understand from my perspective, I'm more of a huge Sasha fan than a Bayley, but this heel Bayley, I'm really feeling she's doing it like she's picking at everybody. She's calling them sheep. She's with her best friend. This to me is
don't call them the Golden Role Models.
No,
she doesn't like that. That is not their name.
I do not like it.
Not their name.
It drives me nuts. I do not understand. Either way, I like this is entertainment for me, and I'm backing them.
Now, one thing, and this is me, I'm full of useless little facts, Jeopardy major here, but,
yes.
An interesting fact that came through that I was, able to go back and really kind of take a look at, but Sasha ended up making history this week by being the first person in the history of the business, and this goes across men, women, any level or classification you want to go by, to win a match on Smackdown, a match on NXT, and a match on Raw, all within a 1-week period, and being able to secure the win in all 3. So not just wrestling a match on all 3 shows in a period of a week, but also winning all 3 matches in a week, as she was the one who scored the submission win over Shotzi and Tegan on NXT. She was the victor in a singles match over Nikki Cross, also a little more on her a little bit later, on SmackDown. And then you had her be the one to pick up the submission win over the Iconics on Raw. So congratulations to Sasha. More history for the boss.
So not only can she slay, she can go out there and kick butt, and she's getting to do it with her best friend. That seems like you're living the life.
Sounds like a ton of fun to me.
Sounds like a ton of fun to me.
And also, to wrap up Championship Monday, they finally decided to settle the score of anything you can do, I can do better. The Street Profits and the Viking Raiders, who's going to fight crime throughout the night? Viking Profits! We'll work on it. But anyway, finally settling their score. Of course, you know, weeks upon weeks of random competition. But they finally, settle it in the ring. The Street Profits finally getting that elusive win over the Viking Raiders to retain the Raw Tag Team titles. Getting a chance to kind of celebrate, but then it looks like perhaps some new challengers on the horizon.
You know what would have been interesting, and to me it would have been more better, is if, like, you for the Street Profits, you had Bianca in their corner, but the interesting thing is to bring Sarah Logan back and put them with the Viking Raiders. I think that would have been an interesting concept for both women to be, like, right behind their men.
And I do wonder, before Sarah made her decision this past week, if that was given as an option for her to be able to be part of that storyline. For those of you unfamiliar, Sarah Logan officially announcing her retirement from wrestling because she wants to pursue other life aspirations of her own. We wish her the best. You know, she had a wonderful couple of years in WWE, and I do wish her the best.
I do too.
Some other assorted storylines throughout Raw, but not quite as big a deal. You're setting up the Messiah and his group. Of course, the return of Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic also showing up, looking to potentially lead to either a 6 or maybe potential an 8-man match at what is now being called Horror Show Extreme Rules.
Who came up with that? Who?
Let's watch the horror show today. I promise I won't sing anymore. I knew it was wrong the moment I said it.
You can't dance and you can't sing, but you know what? I give you your all for trying.
Hello.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm allowed to say that on air, but you get the reasoning, okay? Catch the reference. But either way, you had that, and then you also had some other essential storylines. Liv Morgan falling victim to Natalya and Lana, who appear to be like they're going to be in a new stable now. And Liv kind of getting trying to get a pep talk from an old frenemy, Ruby Riott, backstage.
She wasn't having it, and I can understand why she wasn't.
Not tonight.
But if you know that your frenemy is trying to help you, take what she's trying to give you, work with it. And maybe for a little bit, try joining up long enough to be 2/3 of the Riot Squad and just go and just put these two, I'm going to say it for what it is, crying, whiny babies. That's what Lana and Natty are. I'm not sorry for saying that.
There you go. You heard it here first. So take it for what it's worth. Crying baby.
Whiny babies.
Whiny babies. Okay, create a hashtag for that.
Yes.
Plenty of storylines jumping through Monday Night Raw as we start moving towards Extreme Rules. We move now to NXT, who, of course, set the bar. First, I'd like to congratulate NXT, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, anyone running the show. Hey, even Vince, if he was back there running it, because we truly don't know at this point.
Let's not forget William Regal either.
Of course. NXT securing its largest audience victory over AEW since since the Wednesday Night War started. Almost 400,000 more viewers on WWE this week. And I want to make sure it's clear, we're not against AEW. We're truly not. I mean, we talk about WWE on here because that's the medium we've chosen to take. But there are a lot of people that we have a lot of respect for and a lot of fandom for when it comes to AEW. So we're not against it. But if we're going to be a WWE media show, congratulations where it's due. The fact is NXT brought the show this week, and it clearly was not missed by anybody.
No, they brought down the house, but it wasn't their house.
So what show are we talking about? Well, let's get into it. Of course, the main event was the huge triple threat match for the North American Championship. You had the incumbent champion Keith Lee defending against both Johnny Gargano and Finn Balor. And the match did not disappoint. We talked a couple of weeks ago about Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles being potentially the leader for match of the year, along with possibly AJ and Undertaker's Boneyard match. I don't think this one necessarily matched up all the way to be called match of the year, but I'd say it's in the running.
They're right behind the Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, honestly, and it is what it is. But hey, I enjoyed it. So to them, congratulations. If you don't know and you've got 5 seconds to tune out, but I want to congratulate
you can go.
Keith Lee.
They've had 2 days.
Of the Limitless one. So bask in his glory, do what you do, and go whip Adam Cole for me.
There you go. So, of course, the stipulation of the match being a triple threat match. Of course, that means no DQ, no countouts, has to have a winner. But the winner of the match not only would be North American champion, but also in 2 weeks will be taking on Adam Cole in a winner-takes-all title versus title match. So both the North American and the NXT Championship will both be on the line in 2 weeks. Keith Lee and Adam Cole. So obviously, for those of you who pay attention to my plate exchanges, we know we're going to have a plate exchange of some kind. We just don't know which belt yet, and we won't find out for another 2 weeks. That one has Instant Classic all over it. I hate that they're not using it on a takeover, but I have a feeling that whoever wins is going to get fed to Karrion Kross.
That's what I was just about to bring up. That will be an interesting match. I want to see who's going to have to be fighting against Karrion Kross. I could see it going one of 2 ways. I could see Adam Cole retaining and taking the title, or I could see Keith Lee keeping his title and taking the one off of Cole. But with that being said, whoever is having to face Kross, do you think the other one will help? Like, say for example, Keith Lee's having to face him. Do you think Adam Cole will get involved with the Undisputed Era?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that, Cole would ultimately use everything at his disposal, including the Undisputed Era. And Keith Lee is just, a mammoth in of himself, that he has just proven that he is able to rise up to another level whenever it seems like he needs to. They've put him up against some of the best. He's faced Roman Reigns. He's, gone toe-to-toe with Adam Cole before and won. And then on Wednesday night he beat 2 of the best NXT has to offer at the same time in both Gargano and Balor. And that's not to say that Gargano and Balor didn't put on a heck of a show themselves, even teaming up at times, because they knew that Lee was the strongest of the three.
And to get rid of him or to get him out, they had to work together.
Exactly. So, congrats to Keith Lee. It's going to be a fantastic match in 2 weeks. But before we get there, we do have one championship match that is going to be set up even before that. Next week on NXT, we are going to have a fatal 4-way match to decide the #1 contender for Io Shirai's NXT Women's Championship.
Wow.
You're going to have Dakota Kai, you're going to have Tegan Nox, you're going to have Mia Yim, and you're going to have Candice LeRae. All fatal 4-way, so once again, no DQs, no countouts. Winner gets Io Shirai.
You know who I'm pulling for. I want to see that match. I want to see my girl Mia win. Come on, let's do it. Yup.
Now, see, if I'm picking anyone, honestly, I'm going with Dakota. I think Dakota's the one who has been waiting in the wings. She had the heel turn back in Survivor Series, and I think they've really just been waiting for the right moment. Regardless of which of the 4 wins, I'm not sure they're going to take the title off Io so quickly.
I know.
I do think it doesn't matter which of the 4 wins. Whoever wins will go in, will not be the favorite against Io, regardless of which of the 4. But you've got a chance to set up some great matches, no matter who you put out there.
Exactly.
You add in, potentially, if it's Dakota, you add Raquel on, at ringside as well as a mitigating factor.
I think
you could say the same thing with Tegan, potentially with Shotzi on the side.
I think you could say the same thing with like Candice LeRae having Gargano in her corner, and you could say the same with Mia having Keith Lee, if they're not too tired from their other matches.
Right. Well, their match wouldn't be till the following week, so Gargano, in theory, should be fresh, but it's going to depend on when the match happens.
Exactly.
Does it happen on NXT? Does it happen at Takeover before SummerSlam? We'll have to see. Some other matches in the evening. You had Casey Catanzaro and Kaden Carter lose to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez earlier in the night. Raquel putting on a heck of a show right at the very end as she showed her monster side, and basically single-handedly winning that match at the very end, and then doing what a good lackey does and giving Dakota a chance to to finish it.
She showed pure dominance, and I'm liking all the bigger women, like Tamina's and Naya's and everyone, showing that they, just because they're big women, they still can defend, they still can fight, and they, will do what they have to help the person they're working with and getting the win. As
long as they'll do it safely. I think that's the primary concern. It's no mystery. Nia Jax herself has caught a lot of flack for people getting injured in matches that she has been in. I think a lot of that is really the size difference. I mean, especially when you look at the situation that happened a couple of weeks ago with Nia and Kairi Sane. I mean, there's about 150-pound weight difference between the two. So, I mean, with all due respect, when there's that much of a weight difference, there can be something that's bound to happen, even if you're doing it exactly right.
Exactly.
So, the women's division, continuing to step up to the plate. The men's division did what they needed to do this week, and we'll see if the women can step up the following week. But we'll certainly see how it turns out. We moved to Smackdown tonight, unless you had something else to add to NXT real quick.
We cannot forget Rhea, can we?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God! So she just decides to throw poor little Aaliyah over into the what? No, not throw her. That was Robert Stone, that boozer.
For
But
the second week in a row.
yeah,
Trash can.
Trash can. And then you slap. What are you thinking?
You could see the regret the moment she did it too.
Then,
like, oh, no, I messed up.
But then actually having that match and it goes forward just for, you know.
Well, it's very clear Rhea was never phased at any point. It was very clear she was in complete control the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Robert trying to put his nose in, but it does lead to the interesting scenario for the following week, and that is Rhea going to have a handicap match and a rare intergender handicap match, I'd like to note, against Aaliyah and Robert Stone in a match that if Rhea loses, she must join the Robert Stone brand voluntarily. So,
and she was okay with it. She said,
she's the one who said, I'm good with it. Let's go.
That shows how much confidence she has in her ability to roller steam through both of them.
Well, all I know is if you go back about a decade ago, I remember a certain chain gang commander that was cocky enough to say, I won't join the Nexus because the Nexus can't beat me, and we see how that turned out. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Go back, let's see, throw it in the comments down there if you see if you can remember what I'm talking about. But anyway, sorry about that, jumping the gun here a little bit. There's no way we could forget Rhea Ripley and the funny storyline. Getting a chance to see her comic side, I like it. I don't know if we're allowed to do this on air. I think
she might grant us just one.
Don't sue us, please. And please, for the love of God, don't show up at my house. If you think Robert Stone is bad, don't throw me in a dumpster. I'll scream the whole way.
No, he won't. He wants her boot in his neck.
Right here, Rhea.
Okay.
Moving on, SmackDown, before I get myself in trouble on here. As we already said, an entire tribute show to The Undertaker. We're going to hit that towards the end. Let's get to the handful of events that were non-Undertaker related that did happen tonight. You had a very, very good in-ring promo tonight. One of probably the better ones that he's had in his career with Braun Strowman, essentially saying that he's going to unleash the evil side against Bray Wyatt, and actually challenged him to a match that sounds like it's going to take place in a Louisiana swamp.
Going back to the swamp, where that's his home. That's where Bray brought him into the fold with the Wyatt family. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. But you know what I love? The crazy ass laughter.
Oh yeah, both of them, and they both sound exactly the same. But he even talked about it. He said, and I'm going to direct quote here as best I can. He said, either I'm going to come out the craziest son of a bitch on the planet, or I'm going to come out knowing I spit in the devil's face and got away with it.
Either way.
Either way, they have done. I said after they fought each other, at Money in the Bank, that I thought that even though their match was a cinematic match, that they put on a fantastic show for a match that, honestly, I didn't think was very well done up to that point. But the storytelling for Bray and Braun has been absolutely outstanding during the time in which Bray Wyatt has been involved. You now open up the door for a cinematic match between the two at Horror Show, along with the possibility that now you could see Bray kind of pull maybe a Mick Foley with maybe many of his personalities all showing up at once.
I think,
will that be too much for Braun to handle?
You have, like you said, you have Bray Wyatt, and then you have Leader Bray Wyatt, and then you have, maybe Funhouse Bray comes out, maybe for a minute, and then I think you see The Fiend at some point. I think all those personalities would throw me. I'd be too nervous to even get into that match, but that's just me.
Well, also they talked about, when Bray went back to his face role when he joined up with Woke and Matt Hardy, going back a couple of years ago. It was the Pool of Resurrection or Reincarnation or something like that. But I can guarantee you the swamp they're going to get thrown in is not that.
Nasty.
That's got a great storyline written all over, and about time, because I really was worried as to whether Bray being Universal Champion was going to end up leading to show up, slam, next person, show up, slam, next person. Now it's not seeming like that's going to be the case anymore. They're putting some good story behind him, and I like it.
But what two better people than the people that know each other the best? Bray and Braun. There you go, two B's. I was so lost. What better story? And Bray, we know, can carry a story by himself if he really wanted to. But the fact you've got part of your family who is, trying to divide himself, to remove himself out of that family and that background, I don't see how you cannot tell a story. to perfection.
Well, we're going to see how it goes, and they still have a couple more weeks to tell it, too, so I'm curious to see how much further this is going to go and how much darker this is going to get.
With crazy laughter.
You ended up having 2 matches this evening. They did crown the #1 contender for the Smackdown Women's Championship tonight. In a fatal 4-way, it's ultimately Nikki Cross that's getting the title shot at Horror Show Extreme Rules against Bayley. Nikki's been the person that has, kind of lost her way ever since they dropped the tag titles a couple of weeks ago, even losing last week to Sasha Banks, but finding a way to win the fatal 4-way. And now she'll be the one who gets a shot at Bayley. And remember, Sasha's already got her hands full earlier in the night, so Bayley will have to take this one alone.
But I like that little swerve, that little turn you saw on Alexa. Again, every woman for herself, so I get it. Y'all are tag team, y'all are friends. But hey, when it comes to that title, there is no friendships in that ring.
Quick shout out, real quick. Shout out to Kayla, who's out in our thing tonight, for catching that Cena and Nexus reference.
Good job.
Several years ago. That's going back almost 10 years.
I know,
God,
a decade.
God, we're old.
If you're not for them, you're against them.
You're either Nexus or you're against this.
Hey,
I still have the shirt. I'm gonna have to bust that out on one of our episodes. I still have the shirt, the armband, everything.
I do too.
So we'll have to bust that out at some point. The other match, of course, was the final match of the night, which kind of was the ultimate tribute to The Undertaker. Jeff Hardy making King Corbin eat his words for insulting The Undertaker afterwards. You ultimately had The New Day, you had Braun Strowman all get in the ring and basically lay him out. To me, it's fitting that Jeff Hardy ends up being the one who ultimately gets to be the one to provide the tribute to The Undertaker tonight. One of probably the biggest match other than his WWE Championship win in his career. If you go back, about 15 years ago or so, when The Undertaker was the undisputed champion during the later part of the Attitude Era, a young, very still wet behind the ears Jeff Hardy shows up and challenges in a ladder match for the undisputed title, and he absolutely pushed Taker to his limit in a match that you knew Hardy was the favorite in because of the type of match. Taker, of course, retained the title, but there was clearly a respect factor because no matter how many times Taker would punch him, choke slam him, tombstone him, it didn't matter. Hardy got back up every single time. If you haven't watched this match, please go to the network. Please go on YouTube. Watch Jeff Hardy and The Undertaker in a ladder match for the undisputed title. If you haven't seen it, it's a fantastic gem of a match.
I think it's pretty... that's a ballsy move for you just to be coming in to the fold of the WWE family and challenging one of the top ranking respected people.
And for the title, and there were several times, if you listen to that crowd that night, they were just absolutely incensed on the fact that, Jeff Hardy was sitting there literally with his hand on the strap of the belt on the brink of winning the undisputed title from, the American Badass version of The Undertaker at the time.
My favorite version.
And I can guarantee you Taker had some voice in who got to be the one to do this tonight. So what an honor that it's to Jeff Hardy that it's him that got chosen by The Undertaker. And speaking of which, that's where we're actually going to kind of conclude our last, segment this evening. Because we do want to make sure that we have an opportunity to be able to speak on the career that is The Undertaker.
Now, going through his career, because I know I have my favorite Undertaker. Which one is your favorite? Mine is the American Badass version. The whole motorcycle, headband, braid, leather, that's my favorite.
Right, and and honestly, the nice change up, because you had been used to him being this, this demonic soul and everything else, and then you finally gave him a chance to have a personality. He got a chance to get on the mic. He got a chance to talk, but we've mentioned the ultimate symbol of anybody being a ring veteran is someone who is very quiet in the back, but that also tells you that when that person stops to talk, everybody in that room gets quiet and listens. That was what The Undertaker was. He's got a list that rolls from one end of this country to the other of people who have nothing but nice things to say about him. You have hardly anybody who has a negative thing to say about him, his career, his character, everything that he stands for. I still like The Undertaker that, would show up after the Badass run, starting really with WrestleMania 20, where he would come back out in his, in his dead man phase. Leading through the years of him, going through his WrestleMania streak. But I really don't think there was a bad one I think it took some getting used to when he first got on the scene in the 90s, but, he really did settle in well. His time with the Ministry, if you want to go back to Attitude Era time, this would be a little
Way
before
before
your
my
watching time. But his time with the Ministry was fantastic. You got people like him. You had a very young Edge and Gangrel, partying with him at times. We've had an opportunity, luckily, and we're blessed with the fact that we have seen dozens of Undertaker matches live over the years, most of them at WrestleMania. And that's one thing that, I think that a lot of people, didn't appreciate until it was too late, when he was past the point in his career, because, so many of the arguments you hear now is, when should they have stopped the streak? When should they have stopped it? And of course, the easy answer is, of course, before 30, when Brock broke the streak. More on that in a minute.
Oh, man.
But, it's impossible to have that answer because ultimately Taker never disbelieved that he wasn't capable of still being the Undertaker he knew he could be.
And the fact that he would prep, if you go back and you look at every Mania he has, pretty much done, his workouts are extensive. And the fact that he's got to go through workouts and eating and training and prepping, that shows you that he was willing to be around longer than, probably most would expect. But the fact is that he did what he had to make sure when they needed him, he was there.
Well, and there was a period of time in which he stopped taking it seriously. The last really good match of him at what I would call the prime of his career was likely the retirement match at 26 with Shawn Michaels, the second time around. But then he went to 27 against Triple H, and we were there. That was WrestleMania in Atlanta. And, there's conflicting reports that he caught a concussion early in that match, but it's very clear that for 25 minutes Triple H carried that match. There's a list, again, we talk about that list that's a mile long. There's, being able, proven stories and proven reports that are out there that talk about these long list of people that were told you're going to be the one to break the streak, and they didn't choose to. The writers didn't choose to not have it broken. The Undertaker didn't choose to have it not broken. It was the wrestlers themselves. Mark Henry at 22, Batista at 23, Edge at 24, Triple H 3 separate times.
Yeah.
Was told that we're going to have you break the streak, and every single one of them declined, said, I won't be that one. I can't be that one. I don't want to be that one. Even Brock Lesnar, who ultimately was the one that broke the streak, even fought Vince all the way up to the day of that says, I don't want to be the one to break it.
I just remember sitting in that crowd, in that audience, and we're guilty.
30?
Yeah.
Superdome.
We're guilty too. I'm not going to even say that we're not. We're sitting here, we're talking about something, even if it was for like a couple of minutes, and then the next thing we know,
the pinfall has happened.
And the whole building just, you could hear a pin drop.
Well, that's what we talk about when I said that, we took it for granted, and we're guilty of it too.
We are.
We absolutely are. Because we're sitting there, upper level of the Superdome, and I remember just, we're sitting back, and I'm sitting, laid back in my chair. I think we'd gotten some popcorn or something. We weren't paying a bit of attention to that match. Not because it wasn't a good match, but because we knew how it was going to end. Brock will hit 75 to 80% of the moves, but then Taker's going to come back. He's going to hit, he's going to hit Snake Eyes. He's going to hit a choke slam for a near pin. He's going to hit the last ride for a near pin. Brock will hit a few F5s, but Taker will kick out, and he did twice. But we're just sitting there waiting for the inevitable end. We're waiting for the inevitable moment that the Undertaker does what the Undertaker does, and that's find a way to win. And the next thing you know, we're looking down, and they're counting 3. And the moment that hand hit for 3, the entire place erupted and then went silent just as fast.
While we're all sitting there,
not a sound in a building meant for almost 80,000 people. There was not a sound in that building. It is scary how quiet it was.
It not only went from loud to quiet in a matter of under 30 seconds. I'm looking on the screen.
30 might be generous.
Yeah, I'm looking on the screen at Paul Heyman. His reaction was so priceless.
And then you see the infamous 21-1.
And then it just flips on the board, and you're like,
because everybody's sitting there waiting, okay, did he kick out and they missed it? Or, You know, do we have a biased ref, or did Undertaker actually roll him back and maybe we all miss it? Like, we're waiting for something that's gonna bring the storyline back, and and then they announced the winner is Brock Lesnar. And I mean, it changed the complexion of everything. But you go back and you look at Taker's next couple of matches. He beats Bray Wyatt at 31. He ends up wrestling again at 32 against Shane McMahon in Hell in a Cell. And then he gets to 33 where he has a good main event match but loses to Roman Reigns. And then of course the moment, takes off the jacket, takes off the hat, lays it in the center of the ring, and then walks off. And then of course, because he continued to keep having matches later on, everyone thought, okay, well, that meant nothing. Well, the issue with that is it didn't mean nothing. What it meant, and the last ride really helped us with this, is saying that his time as a person who's going to main event Manias and a person who's going to get in the ring and wrestle matches like this, that Undertaker is leaving.
That moment, you have to think that moment I can't speak for you, but for myself, I'm sitting there and, I'm like a huge crier. I would say, like, when something like that happens, and I'm sitting here and I'm like literally in tears because you're.
I was too.
You're looking at the fact that this may be over, this may be his end, and the way he just kind of bowed out so gracefully, taking off his hat and taking off his coat, his trench coat, and just leaving everything in the middle of the ring. And from what we heard, the people that took down the ring left it there.
Yeah, they have photos of them as they're taking down the WrestleMania set, and they're taking down the ring. Nobody touched the jacket and the hat. They show it like the next day, and it took them 2 or 3 days to take down everything out of the stadium in Orlando, and the hat and jacket just sat there the entire time. It was the very last thing that was grabbed out of the arena before they left, before they gave the keys back to the folks who run the Orlando Stadium and left. I mean, that was a sign of the amount of respect, and also a very moving factor of Roman Reigns getting that passing the torch moment by having him beat The Undertaker in his match, in the main event, which cemented, of course, the infamous boo and, of course, the promo of the year the next year, Roman, this is my yard now.
Yeah.
10 minutes of booing, that's the only line he said. But it was something else to be a part of that. But throughout the years, we've had the pleasure of being able to, I'm not even going to say the pleasure, I'm going to say the privilege of being able to attend so many Undertaker matches and see so many Undertaker moments. Hell, you could have a network devoted to him. You could have the WWE Network and then pay $1 more for the Undertaker Network.
Yeah.
That's how much he brought to this business. If he's truly done, I don't see any reason why he should not be headlining the Hall of Fame this year. If not, if you want to give him, one more match at 37, if he decides to, there's no reason he should not be the headliner of either 37 or 38 at the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. He's put in the time.
More than worked for it.
Oh yeah, he's more than put in the time, long past what he should have. So at the end of the day, when it comes to everything that he's done, and he may never see this, and if that's the case, that's fine. But to the Undertaker, the character, thank you for the amazing memories, the amazing moments. I grew up starting with you, and now I have 2 children of my own who have had the honor of being able to see you wrestle in person. And then to Mark himself, thank you for bringing everything about yourself and about your character into our lives for the last 30 years. So it's not going to be forgotten. Your legacy is your legacy was cemented 20 years ago, but now it's who was it tonight that said the Mount Rushmore should be The Undertaker 4 times? I think it was Jeff Hardy, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe it was actually. Yeah. And he's right on that. I mean, you talk about who is on your Mount Rushmore. It's The Undertaker is going to be one of those 4 faces. Anybody who doesn't have him as one of the 4 faces, an absolute fool.
I honestly think you could put 4 different types of Undertaker up there.
Yeah, because he's got. Yeah, you could. So, to everything he's brought, we appreciate it. We care about it. Your fan base is going to be loyal to you through and through. You've more than earned your retirement. You've more than earned your time to go be with Michelle. Go be with, go live your life because you have more than earned it. We have nothing but gratitude and thanks to send your way.
Go home, rest up,
right into the sunset.
Be with your wife, be with your kid. Just know that when you were here and you were working, you gave your all to this craft, and you made people better. You made people up their game. So out of respect for you, I'm not even upset. I think he deserves this.
Absolutely. So with that, we're going to bring On the Ring Apron to an end, running a little bit longer than usual, but hey, we started late, so, this was, it's not every day you get a legend of 30 years that, decides he's going to, call it, and, we get a chance to talk about him. And I mean, we could sit here till 3 in the morning and talk about it, but, we don't have that kind of time. If we decide we want to chat about it a little bit more, if you guys want to see us talk more, let us know. We'll put together something if you guys want to see some more about our thoughts on The Undertaker. That on my YouTube channel, which is also On the Ring Apron, we have several events that we've attended over the years. Almost all of them have an Undertaker entrance. Go back, watch some of those, just listen to the crowd reactions. We also have the dead silence of the Superdome after the Undertaker's streak ended. Seriously, go back and listen and try to tell me that you've ever heard an arena that quiet. So that's it for On the Ring Apron for tonight. Join us tomorrow, 2 o'clock as we normally do. We do have questions with the Queen. Don't know if we'll have a theme or not. She hasn't told me yet,
Nope.
But that's up to her, so you'll just have to tune in to find out. But for those of you who have joined us tonight, thank you very much. We know this one ran long, so we appreciate you staying with us. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and we will catch you guys tomorrow for questions with the Queen, and then we'll see you next week again for On the Ring Apron.
Love you guys. Bye. Mwah.